good afternoon, or maybe good morning, borderline, sitting here on Thursday, March 9th, year 2023, here with the Hello Hello Show, and continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been in the air probably since 1980. Of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course the likes of you out there. And make it your business to enhance and fortify the concept of public access. And we have a great example. Gerry Giliberti is here with us, and it took us a long time.
That's true. You know when I first met you?
I think that, remind me.
Oh, okay. The first time I met you, I remember seeing an ad in the paper for juggling. I think it was in 1984 or something like that.
Ancient.
And I went to you, I called you up and went to the house, and then I found out you were a drummer. And, I've been a drummer since I'm a little kid. And I remember going to your place at the time. And that was the first time I met you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was shocking. No.
Yes, I know. It's still shocking. Nothing has changed. Let me just introduce Gerry to you. As you already figure out, it's almost 30 years that we know each other. But the thing is that really what I like about you, when I feel so great about you and about your quiet, though very thorough enthusiasm, or artistic enthusiasm that you have, that you carry with you nonchalantly. You do it in your own unique way. You're a great artist, of course, that's evident. Everyone likes you. I haven't heard one person since I know you that said anything wrong, bad about you. It's just like that the demeanor that you carry. I really value it, and I appreciate that. So, and of course, I know that you're a conversation partner as a given. Naturally, if we get to talk, we both have actually at the SIS board and the art committee. So, we make a difference. We talk, we meet, so that's good. So why don't you just kind of say a few words about Gerry?
Oh, well, I moved out here, in the 80s, and I used to live in Hampton Bays. I was from Up Island, I grew up in Bethpage, and I was playing in a band, and a friend of mine from Queens, he was playing at a place in Hampton Bays called McDimple's, which was down the block from the Bordy Barn at the time. I was in Hampton Bays. So he didn't want to come out anymore, take the long drive, and I had this band, and we wanted to come out. And so we came out and started playing in the winters. And during that time, in the early 70s, there was like nothing happening in the winter, And there was a few places open, and we started hanging out with some of the bartenders who were going to Southampton College at the time. So we used to stay at their place on the weekend. And eventually we got our own house, and we had the band house,
yeah, of course,
and all that, and played all the summers and back and forth. And that's how I recently got out here. And eventually I got a little piece of property and worked on putting a house together and stuff in the early 80s. And that's how I pretty much got out here. And I started looking. I was always into photography. That was even before my music. I had, when I was in first, second grade, I had a camera, and so I was always into that. And then I started discovering the art community, and I originally used to go to the Jimmy Ernst Artist
Alliance, yeah.
Yeah, over at the
Guildhall.
Yeah.
You mean the ball?
And they used to be over at the Boat Museum.
Yes, and
basement.
then LTV also. They used to have a few years.
Oh yeah.
The last years of.
Yeah, and then I got to know some of the people, and so that was my first introduction to a lot of the artists out here.
Oh yeah.
And I started meeting some photographers. I actually worked with Tim Lee for a couple of years.
Yeah, wonderful guy.
Yeah, I learned a lot from him.
Yeah.
He was really talented.
He was another natural.
Yeah,
Very modest, very powerful.
So Tim Lee used to have at his studio, a night once a month where photographers would come in, and they would do real slideshows, with slides.
That's a great idea.
Bring prints and stuff, and it was down the block from where I lived, down the block, but like 5 minutes away.
Yeah.
And so I discovered that, and I would go to those meetings, and that's how I got involved with the East End Photographers Group.
Yeah.
They created this photography group, and I got to know a lot of the photographers and a lot of artists too, painters and.
So how did you find your way? Because I like your signature as far as your attitude when one examines and encounters your work. There's something that you manage to communicate. That means when I look at a photograph of yours, I feel like I'm not lost. I feel like you're kind enough to give me points of reference where I can kind of find myself in it, and I consider that as great. Now, so tell me a little bit about the evolutionary process in photography itself, because you're also an artist, and you're surrounded by artists. How is it similar, and how does it differ, and how they both come together?
I think one of the earliest influences I had was there was an artist in Hampton Bays. He was a Greek sculptor, and I remember I had a new camera, and I was taking photos, and I happened to go past his house and took photographs of some of the wood sculptures he had and things, and I saw, I would see things, images within some of his things. And about a year later, I went back to show him some of the photographic ideas I got from it. A lot of it was sort of like simulacra, face in a rock type thing. And it just so happens that somebody had stolen one of his sculptures, and he asked me, "Do you have any photos?" And I said, "Yeah." So I gave him a photo for his insurance, whatever. We became friends. And he's an older man. And so that started giving me an insight into looking more deeply into something that looks ordinary, but has some extraordinary.
But how do you bring it to life? Everyone can press a button, and I believe that they all have an edge that is artistic. We're born with it. It's not. Some are really talented, but you have those extremely talented are like 5 in the entire world. But nurturing talent and all this that is pre-existing something is a given in my understanding. But what does it really mean to bring something to life? Pressing the button just as much as any other person in the world will do that, but still you'll bring that to life. Can you describe it to me?
I'm not really sure. It's more about a feeling. You get a feeling for something, and then you just happen to have something that you can make art with in your hands. And in my case, it would be a camera. And you have a feeling for this landscape or for this construction or whatever, this plant or tree. I was obsessed with trees for so long. I really like to look at trees.
What satisfies you if you take an image? What satisfies you?
What satisfies me?
Meaning you take the shot and you say that's good. I'm going to leave it alone. It's really good. Done. Well, where are you there when you feel and experience that?
I'm not really sure.
Because I examine that vis-a-vis me being an actual painter. So I would love to.
I don't know. For some reason. Consciously and subconsciously, everything just seems to fall into place, and that image satisfies me. As far as having,
is it when you feel happy? When you're happy? When you're like?
Oh yeah, when you find something that you go, this is something I'd like to have other people see, And
so does this come out of happiness, a moment of happiness?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you get happy and you go, wow, this is great. I got to show somebody this.
That's the thing that if you can identify it, then you can use it more handily in the future.
Yeah, and
that awareness. And
originally, I didn't start taking photographs to do shows and things like that. I took photographs for myself because I was really interested in photography. And I learned how to, even in high school, I got involved in like print shop and when they used to have that, and learned all about really good darkroom techniques. And, I had my own darkroom at home. I remember, in my parents' house when I was a kid in their basement, and then eventually my own house. And, all those things accumulate, and and they help you begin to create your own personal vision. And also working with other photographers too, and seeing other photographers work. And I've taken some trips with photographers. One of my best friends that I've gone with is a man named Ray German, and he really introduced me to a lot of landscape work. And because he was a landscape photographer, and I was more of I wanted to be an abstract, surrealistic kind of photographer, but I moved towards landscape for the longest time. And he taught me a lot about that. We'd go up to the Finger Lakes and Adirondacks, and he was like an expert. He knew where to go and and all of that. So I learned a lot from him.
But isn't it that it doesn't matter really which I mean, you just said something really important about, even when you said abstract expressionism, suddenly I realized actually that it doesn't matter which medium you choose, all the levels of concepts will be filtered through it no matter what. Because if you're in the landscape or any other scenario other than landscape, everything that's supposed to be filtered through it will be filtered regardless of where the location is, and it's more like your willingness to be participating in this moment, actually holding a camera and actually just about to press the button. That is kind of the most important aspect of it, and the rest is more like, because you're willing, we're granting you freedom of operation. That's why you would find yourself taking shots all over the place and not thinking too much about it, but at the end coming up with really serious work.
Yeah, well, one of the things about growing up shooting film was that you took your time a little bit more. With digital, you can continue to shoot a lot. And for instance, I recently went on a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime trip to Africa. And we were going to go about a year and a half ago. I got pushed back for COVID a couple times and finally went. But, when you have to take photographs really quickly from a truck, and you might shoot 5 or 6 of the same thing, whereas if you were shooting film, you wouldn't be doing that so much. You might, like if you were a sports photographer or something, but you were thinking about it a little bit more. But with digital, you're able to just continue to shoot. And there's a lot more in editing then at that point. Because it used to be when we were doing, let's say, 35 millimeter photography, you would shoot a roll of 36 pictures, and you were lucky and super happy if you found one image on that contact sheet that you really loved. Now it's kind of the same feeling, but you have so much more to go through and edit, and with digital photography. But they both have the good and bad. And I do still shoot film occasionally, and I actually have about 10 rolls of film that I've shot over the last 2 years, and it's still sitting there. I haven't developed it or anything, but I basically do mostly digital photography like the rest of the world.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, because I would say about 6-7 years ago, I was going around and purchasing those throwaway cameras, the 24 exposures, 36, whatever it was, and I felt like it's a good thing to have, as 2 dozens of them available, and I didn't know quite why, but then I found myself taking a camera with me now and then, and just kind of emptying in almost like having a gun, and then you release 15 shots to the ground. You don't point anywhere at anyone, just the floor. And so I said, if I was to do that, the result would be legitimate and interesting, because it's more about, this is a portrayal of my specific attitude of that moment, correct?
Yeah.
So it's all about consistency. It's all about, you don't have to reinvent yourself or think too philosophically or be too serious or be excellent at any given time. You just gotta kind of be normal and consistent, somewhat to the best of your ability, and to involve in that artistic process. A brush in the hand, available paint, canvas, and you go boom, kaboom, and then you go to the camera and you go tum 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 tum. It doesn't matter really, but the process of shooting it, the process of sending it to be developed, the process of receiving it, the process of mounting it, the process of going to buy 24 frames that are kind of somewhat okay, and it's a matter of taking them and matting them and framing them and closing them and cleaning them, sending invitations and say, hey guys, I got a few images I want to share with you at this place at this time. Give it a title and go to your old typewriter and just write. It's just right. Have one bottle of wine, a few drinks, and some postcards and some music in 2 days, and if you were to do it, no matter who you are, what I just described, everybody will remember you. They won't forget this event. They won't forget the art also. No, I mean, they will forget the art, but they won't forget the event. Because they didn't have to filter through the art. It's the amazement of, look at this guy. What triggered them to do that? They find themselves not even examining the art. Maybe because they think the art is good. It must be good.
I just had this just now, 10 minutes ago, when I ran into Mike Clark, and I hadn't seen him in a long time, and he goes to me, I still have that, image of...
he always talks about it, how he has one of your pieces.
And he said, I still have that photograph of Paulie, of Miss Paulie, the sax player.
Love it.
And when he had the Crossroads store over in North Main,
and Amagansett,
we used to go there, and we would... No, before the Amagansett, he used to have one on,
North Main,
North Main in
of
East
course.
Ham. And we used to go there for the jam, they would have a jam. And I was there with a little... one of my first little digital cameras, and I took a picture of her playing, and it wasn't clear. It was very, kind of like with movement, and so I created these, what I call them photo constructions, using wire, and then making a transparency from the image, and then I would wire it to the main wire, and it would become this little sculpture. And so I remember I gave him one, and today he said, I still have that. I still have that. And that was a spur of the moment image that just happened. I was there, and I was excited. I probably moved the camera, but it just became something that had something, a certain suchness, whatever you want to call it. There's certain something that makes it viewable, and
yes,
that you feel like you want to look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? That when you go to the important museums of the world, usually the end result of that would be, no matter who you are, exhaustion. There's an emotional exhaustion. You go there. There's people can say you don't have to go through everything, but you say, I'm there. I'm going to go through whatever I can, as much as I can. And then you realize that when you're out, you're so drained that you have no time to critique, even to yourself, what you just witnessed. So there's always just like bits and pieces that are remaining. So the establishment doesn't want you to have time to be able to critique, because they want to maintain their superiority. When you donate all this work to museums that are big time, the families of those wonderful, great, incredible artists, the hundreds of millions of dollars and all this, gives them power, and that power translates to independence. That independence translates to playing the power in order to maintain this strength, and sometimes it's on the account of maybe not allowing you to breathe long enough in order to utter a word of criticism, because it's just not a good idea. So there's a lot of technicians involved in this process, so it takes away from the artistic value of it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I go and I stand in front of a piece that's whatever, it's 100 years old, and I smell mildew. Sometimes I really do, because I'm sensitive to it. I really can detect there's kind of a level of complacency, a level of, this is a given, For example, I'm a great supporter of the fact that Jackson Pollock Studio should be available to the public, of course, monitored, to work there, to create there. Like, what are they trying to freeze exactly there? The floor? They can put like a laminated thing over the floor. Right. It should be used. And all the greats here that have studios and all, it should be kind of... Wouldn't that be like incredible? Like it's the Kooning. Wouldn't you want to work at the Kooning's studio for like a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
And say, hey, go there, bring your canvases and knock yourself out.
It's something to be in a space that, where creativity just kind of abounded,
Yeah.
And there's something, maybe it's baloney, but I mean, maybe there's something there that you can, some kind of spirit type of thing that you can bring into yourself from being in that kind of space. You get it when you go into a museum. Sometimes you get it going into somebody's garage. It's just a matter of you're there and there's something about it.
What do you think would have been the answer of the Kooning if he was, or the Pollock or Hoffman or whomever, if they were to be asked while they were alive, after you're gone, if your studio would have been available to some artists some now and then to be worked on, would you mind that? I don't think the Kooning would have said, "Don't you dare bring anyone to the studio."
Well, that's true.
If Jackson Pollock would have said, "Of course, what do you mean? I'm counting on it."
But there are places around, like the church that does residencies, and the big watermill, they do residencies, things like that, and where you're around other artists, and you can just concentrate on being an artist and not have to worry about your job or anything else. And so that, I guess that's kind of a good thing. I haven't done anything like that myself.
Yeah,
I haven't done any residencies or anything.
Yeah,
I mean, but. What was I going to say? When you were talking about Pollock, the first time I really saw a real Pollock, I was in, I guess, the Museum of Modern Art, and it was this really big one. It was really high, and it was the first time I had ever seen one, in real life, because there weren't that many around, and it was really an experience to see that. Because when you brought it up, but anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean, we just went to I've been to the MoMA about 2 weeks ago, and it was really a devastating experience. I felt like I felt weird. I usually feel like panicky, panic attack is approaching. But this was really calling for a panic attack, more spiritually than anything. I go there and I kind of look for some brightness, So I go to this section where modern art is all over the place, and I say, I cannot find one bright color, I only find attempts of artists to be politically correct kind of thing, even in 100 years ago or something. There's a watchful eye, someone is examining them, they feel, all the time. Even when I saw the show in Southampton at the Art Center and all this, listen, of course it's a huge show and I appreciate the effort of those who put it together. But someone failed her in bringing into the equation brightness, color. That means I remember when I started painting, people used to come to me and say, "Oh, it seems like you're working directly from the tube." And I said, so what's the problem? Do you think that's a proof that I don't know how to mix colors myself? Of course I know. It's the choice. I make it so you see what I mean? Yeah. People are scared that, God forbid, they'll be associated with those who just open the tube and go, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Even older painters from the 19th century, like Turner and people like that, they used yellow was something they wanted to put into their into their landscapes. They had this luminosity, And that's one of the things I've become interested in my old age is landscape painting, but just not so much super detail and things like that, but more of a impressionist type of thing. And then how people actually do that, where they're not always working with a brush, they're working with their finger, and they're taking away areas and bringing in other areas, and not necessarily always using brushes, and creating these magnificent impressionistic landscapes and things. Because when I look at it out on landscapes, I'm beginning to look at them as though they could be paintings too.
Yeah.
And I didn't always look at it like that. I always kind of looked at it more from a photographic view. But
why do we keep on associating certain kind of palette to let's say it's very tricky to try and be conservative
I think
while
it's a
you're
social
actually
scene.
creating modern piece. When you bring modernism while you're a conservative individual, that's a weird mix, but that's a very powerful mix, you know. But in some, what I'm saying, I want to be able to be thinking about things that will flash my eye and maybe tame my brain for a minute or two before I start thinking.
Yeah.
I want to be taken by oh wow, this let me see, you know, so I need a minute. I want to enter a place, and I don't want to be amazed, but I just want to have the feeling like I need to wait a minute.
Yeah.
That I cannot just jump into it because something is there that is evident and powerful that's telling me, take a deep breath, you're in good hands, kind of thing. Brightness, just simple brightness. People stopped relating to the fact that complexity and sophistication can come into the equation just because you chose certain colors and chose certain location and placement and chose to utilize your photographic memory and implement it and chose to be everything together in order to give you that because I want to please you. I want you to come, and I want you to simplify things for you at first, only so you can start really digging in deep, which I'm expecting from you to do. But you know what I mean? I want to make things easier for you. I want to bring the happiness long before you know what the story is all about.
Exactly. I'd rather make something that makes you happy than, although I mean some arts, bring you to tears, I guess. But the current social scene throughout, I don't know, probably throughout the world, but definitely in our country, it's all very dark, in many ways. The social scenes that are occurring all seem very, very dark, and I guess it's being represented in some of the art that's being shown, as you're pointing out, that it's not as bright and cheery and hopeful, and there's a lot of hopelessness more than ever, these days. No matter where you stand politically, whatever. I mean, I came from a broken home. My father was a Union Democrat. My mother was a Westchester Republican. I saw both sides, of everything, and so the whole political scene seems to have been filtering down. It always did, but I mean, even more than ever, into the art world, I think, But
yeah, and but sometimes you realize it's actually deterring people from thinking in a certain way because they feel like if they were to do that, then it will result in maybe potentially indirectly hurting someone or hurting someone's feelings. So just because you want to say, like I remember, I don't know which artist was at Ashwa Hall at some point. I don't know when it was, but I just kind of felt like I need to share something with them, and I realized that the art is great, but just technically speaking, they just use too much art, whatever. So, God forbid that I don't know how I found now I realize the courage.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I think, listen, it's all great here, but next time kind of lose about 30% of the paintings here. Just because you have some great work. Everything is great, but together it's just overwhelming.
Well,
So
someone
this-
shows you. put
yeah,
on
but the
here,
thing,
really
but the
good.
thing is that this is an example where you cannot just say something like this and consider it as an interaction, as a discussion, as a conversation, potential for conversation, you know.
Yes.
Like, why would you think that? That's interesting. I did think about it, but you know what? And then someone can share with you, listen, I don't have this hole that often, so I want to just fill it up with as much as I can or something, which is okay. You know, this is what discussion all. So when you go and criticize, for example, when I went to the art center, I wanted to say, who was overlooking the one that was overlooking? Who was there that could have come to an event, certain event, to those who run it and say, hold on just one, I need 20 seconds here. And throw you 20 seconds and you're like, you have an influence because you're overlooking the overlooker, okay? Yeah. And you don't force anything, you just throw you 20 seconds of observation.
Of which art center now?
No, I'm just saying any art center in the world. But I mean, I went there, like said, okay, so if there was an observer, of an observation over the observer, then this huge piece there would be like fire. Fire. I mean, you're talking fire. You're talking so much fire that you wouldn't even get that close to it, and it's a painting, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
And that you would be surrounded by this exotic neonish colors just because there are artists that create in the way that they can bring to life science ideas. So you want to feel disappointed, but you want to say, okay, maybe I can just mention something here as a by the way thing, but it just doesn't work. So then I realized that the system can be designed that it will be reminded automatically, as if there's a system in a home that prevents floods, because if you use more water than this number, then the system will shut itself off. You know what I mean? So things like that. You want to steal cars, now you get into the car, you drive 2 miles and then it's gone. And they know where you are, the police are already waiting for you there to pick you up. You know what I mean? So they say, okay, so where's the window that leads, or the door that leads to a back room where people can go and say, you know what, screw you. Like, what the freaking heck is going on here, huh? Can you sit here and be accountable? And you know, let me hear what you have to say first. I don't even want to tell you anything. You know what?
People are afraid to do this now.
No, I'm just saying, and have it be acceptable, loving, respectful. Even though I can say, you can go just F you yourself and don't show your face here ever again. Whatever, I'm just saying.
No, I know what you're saying, but people are like really hesitant to say anything these days about anything.
And now go there and take everything down. Got it? Take everything down, send it back, and. You know, like I remember in my army service, there was this sergeant that used to say, okay, we're like a platoon or whatever, 50 soldiers with 8 medium-sized tents with all our equipment and all that. And he said, okay, you see that hill right there? I think it's a great idea. You take all your tents and relocate it. And then you empty all your bags and you fill it up with sand. Then you empty the sand, then you put your boat clothes back. Then you start heading down with all your equipment to reset it here. So...
that's the person in authority. They're the ones that can.
Not even one even dared to say, what are you, crazy?
Right.
You wouldn't even say what, because you would be flying.
Right.
Okay.
But in a free society, we should be able to do that.
Yeah. But the thing is, it's the logic of lack of logic. You know, that means you in a situation like this, you know you're a soldier, so you know better. And then you're in the other scenario, in the civilian life, you're there, but you know you don't want to just buy enemies or something, or you don't want people not to like you, or to remember you in a bad way. So you have the reason of why you just keep it to yourself, also. But in the same token, how much we're missing out because our role is more important than just entering the studio and deciding to draw a line. You know, our role is to maintain, as long as possible, the coherence of our societies in order to increase the chances of longevity for this society, you know? This is all about art
that's
scared.
why art is so important.
Yeah, it is. So, you know, now and then I manage to hurt someone's feelings without hurting their feelings.
you know, you in the beginning you said everybody that has nothing to say bad about me, but I'm sure there are. You know, I've had problems with some people along the way, and everybody's got a difference of opinion.
Yes.
And you can't please everybody, and that's my problem. You know, one of the things is I try to do whatever I can, and try to say yes. And I say yes too many times. I should be saying no a lot. And especially at this point in my life, you know, I just feel like I'm involved in so many different things. I'm trying to scale back on so much stuff. And one of the big things for me now is with this East End Photographers group that I've been sort of supporting all these last 25 years or so. We're finally restructuring it. And we're getting other people involved, you know, where people used to go, and you know this, you'd have a show, and maybe not so much with you, but with other organizations stuff, people just wanted to bring their stuff and just leave it there, and everybody hangs it up, and they just come to the opening. They don't want to help, you know, be involved in it, hang it, do all these different types of things. So, you know, I've gotten to the point where it's like, if you don't want to be involved and don't want to help, then, you know, don't be part of it. You know, you have to put something into it. And so that's why I'm like trying to scale back on things a little bit.
Yes, and but you know what? Let me just mention that we're sitting here with Gerry Giliberti, and Gerry is one of the artists that are participating in the group show that we have here. A photographer, Gerry, Lenore Bailey. We got Steve Rahm, and we got Jim Slazak, and we got Christina Stowe, and
you.
Yeah, myself, just a few paintings, you know, just because there's nothing else to cover the windows here, so I left it there. But and then of course the opening will be March 18th, 3 to 6, and following that there are going to be about four bands playing here at the
That's going to be great.
that Saturday. Yeah, so we're kind of.
And you know, I'm very familiar with Christina Stowe and Jim Slazak, you know, and also Lenore Bailey and Steve Rahm. I don't know all of Steve's paintings and things, but one of the things I always remember about Steve Rahm, I remember he was describing something when he was doing a painting. He said, and then I just took this one section and put a big cloud right there. I always remember him saying that.
Say that again, please. Because I want him to hear that. That's for Steve Rahm, please.
Because I remember him telling me, or we were saying it to you on one of the Hello shows. I don't remember. But he said, I was making this painting and I just decided to put that one big cloud right in the sky there. And I always remember that. And it's great. I mean, the way it looked, the painting was really
and the way he does with his thumb, you know, like, so it's always like, I said, you don't need brushes, just go. You eye it, you paint with it, everything. I always tell him, for someone who doesn't create it all, you sure have a big mouth. But yeah, that's so funny. He's such an accurate.
And Lenore, I've known Lenore.
There's nothing that a cloud won't solve.
And, you know, it's funny thing about Jim Slazak. He was always doing a lot of different kinds of landscapes and all kinds of abstract things. And all of a sudden, he got into this thing where he started taking ribbons or rubber bands and putting them together on a flat surface and then photographing them. And he created these very abstract sort of writings or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And and Christina Stowe, she did a lot of very out there sort of sexual type stuff. I remember for many years, and some of the things she's putting in now is a little tamer. And she had some real wild stuff, you know.
Yeah.
For a long time. And,
that's good to know. I mean, I didn't really get to know much. Other than just this is the first encounter, but we love. I really appreciate that you're a part of the effort. Many things for your labels. I mean, I don't take it for granted. I know it's time consuming, so you kind of you helped in a very nice way. That's much appreciated. It doesn't go unnoticed. So in that sense, So yeah, we whether you believe it or not, we had what we have about another 10 minutes, and so I want to go back to the first opening kind of statement where what does it mean that taking a good shot, taking a shot that turns out to be a good one, and what is it? How do we create the opening so we can enter into that immediate zone where what we decide matters, what we decide makes the difference, out of knowledge, out of knowing, out of clarity, out of your awareness, of your immediate vicinity, and so many other things. So what do we need in order to secure that, to make sure that it happens?
Well, it's all about looking, and seeing into whatever you're, in my case, photographing, seeing something there that most people might not really see. And you need to express that some way and let other people see what you're seeing. And it's something that it occurs. It doesn't occur all the time. You take certain photographs or sometimes I'll take notes and say, I got to come back to this place. I got to photograph it, pass it in a car or whatever, and write a note and say, I got to come back. And when you come back to that space,
it's no longer
it's not the same
place
thing anymore.
But don't you have to figure it out yourself ahead of time anyway? So because you say you want to make it happen in order for other people to see what you saw, but
pre-visualization, that's a technique like Ansel Adams would use, and where he would pre-visualize what he wanted to photograph before he photographed it.
Yes.
So he really started to analyze the image that he wanted to create, and then when he kind of visualized that, and then he was able to actually take the photograph and have the negative and create the negative. But then, even with his negatives, he was always manipulating. People have been manipulating photographs forever.
Yes.
And
remember
it's
Michael
hardly
Knigan?
Ever a straight shot, or maybe in sports, but hardly ever a real straight shot. You're always tweaking something a little bit here and there, and
you know what? The more I think, maybe I can bring some of Michael Knigan's photographs that I have in my studio. All the presents that he gave me. Maybe I can just put it right here, one wall to him, huh?
Well, yeah, because one of the things he told me when I was still shooting film, and we were making that transition to digital, and he already made it. And I said to him, how come you're going to digital? And he goes, well, he said, there's just so much time left to create my art.
Yes.
And the digital just made it faster. And I never forgot that, and then when he passed away, it always stayed with me and he created some, wonderful stuff. I mean, great stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Really great image. He was a bit of an influence on me in terms of just my excitement about photography.
Of course. He was my brother. He was like literally unbelievable. Yes, we were very, very close.
Yeah.
He went too soon.
I know. I
think he was 71? Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, so now you got me thinking. Maybe
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it.
I don't have any of his photographs, but
yes,
I'm sure his
Joan. Joan.
Yeah.
Joan. Yeah.
She might have. I'm
sure
yeah,
and I saw her at the opening. Yes, I should definitely call her and tell her that I'm going to put some pictures. Joan. Yeah. So again, I cut you short, but anyway, it's all about so you have to really make it happen, and understand where you stand, where you are, what it means. Again, all these trivial things, but when you know it as a group of ingredients, it's powerful, and you can really create faster and with more confidence, and be more prolific at the end of the day.
Yeah, I wish I could be more explicit about the explanation from myself and how I create things. Not the greatest at that, but I in the end, it's the print. Yeah. It doesn't matter to me. Doesn't matter what kind of frame you have, what kind of matting you have. It's all about the print, and that was one of the things I learned when I did a couple of years over at the Sag Harbor Photo Gallery, when Jocelyn Benzikin was running it. And I had a couple of summers there, and I worked with her, and that was the most important thing. She said, the print is the most important thing in terms of photography. What that print looks like and represents. You could put it in any kind of frame you want, you know, but it's the actual print. And I've always feel that way. You know, I'm not you know, crazy about doing crazy frames and things like that myself.
Yeah.
Although there's so many frame examples you can do now, you know, with plexiglass and all these different things.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So I feel like there's just as much when photography was introduced and it gave, suddenly you realized that, you know, it influenced painting because you could really actually just take a photograph, and there's so many type of painters that you don't need anymore, kind of thing, even though it's just, so they were switching to photography. So now I feel like that there's a tendency to want to immigrate away from photography to painting, you know what I mean? Where people feel that they have a little more room to decide for themselves when they hold a brush in their hand, rather than click and it's, oh, maybe it's too soon, maybe it's too late, or things like that.
One of my friends has been doing that. A couple of my friends had done it in the past, but one of my friends, Linda Alpern, you probably know, she you know, is strictly a black and white photographer, but now she's been painting her photographs, you know, painting on them.
Yeah.
It's nothing new, but for her it's new, and it looks great. You know, it's really a new way of seeing what you set out to do. One of the things that I did early on was I'd take a photograph, and it really didn't work as a black and white photograph or a color photograph. So then I try to do something else with it, make an etching of it, or do different types of things, or create a photo construction from it rather than just a photograph, because for some reason the plain photograph didn't work, but the image was there, but it needed to be expressed in a different way, in a different medium.
Yeah.
You know, so you would have this mixed media, you know.
Yes, and then also the whole idea of introducing the evolutionary process as a part of the exposure process that is actually available. So so you see the graduality of that ascend, and then, you know, and with painting, again, I feel like I can't say that when I hold a camera in my hand I understand basic things that a photographer should or would, but I know that I can hold a camera and take shots and make believe that I know what I'm doing, and be really serious about it. It's just that's one of the ways that I used to use early on when I started painting, because of fear, because of lack sense of appreciation or security or whatever it is, you know, low self-esteem, a million things, and I wanted to internalize, only so I can externalize a little bit, something decent. So I used to eat a lot of crap, feed myself a lot of crap.
Yeah, you've done so many different types, and there's one thing that I really liked. You did like these symbols. It was something,
yes.
I saw a show once with like the
I'm actually
symbols.
reintroducing them. It's funny you should say it.
I love that. I thought that was great.
Yes.
It was really unique. You
Yes.
know? And, I really liked that.
And I have plenty of it. That's the beauty of it. So many I haven't shown. It's funny because a gallery owner came and we kind of dug things out, and he was like, "Wait a second, let's not talk about this. This is too much." So we were like, but I mean, so having an attitude, activating an attitude while you're actually doing your art, shooting, painting, playing, you know, while you're engaged in one of the mediums is incredible. That's what leads us to, nowadays, I say to myself, well, you know what, I'm going to deprive myself from sleep, so I need to have my 2.5, 3 hours at night. And suddenly I realized that I don't want to examine what I did when I'm on my way up 1:30 in the morning and I need to go to sleep. I let it be, you know. I know. So I'm exhausting myself, and then I'm exhausting myself again while I start the process of creating. And then if I need to think about it and examine it on my way out, then I have to exhaust myself the third time. So I skip that.
Yeah, the discipline. It's
and I'm like and then I'm like, okay, so, as long as I have enough days, that will amount to be the what I need in order to cover 2023 or next week or the next show or the.
Yeah, just to do something 15, 20 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like pulling teeth. It's
really
hard, I could do something else so much easier. I turn the TV on or whatever.
Also, if you leave, your studio that is compatible to you when you come in, so you don't have to look for pain. I always make it somewhat ready for me to just go, boom, I'm done. I'm here. I know where I am. I know there. It's waiting for me. It makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Makes me feel good, and I'll have the tea later and I'll start the music later. Turn the heat on. Or sometimes I would go to the studio when I had the other one, just turn the heat on, and an hour later just come there for 45 minutes and be all over the place.
Yeah.
So again, as I said, I don't know how much we're running out of time, but let me see. Just give me 1 second.
So the opening is going to be on
yes, it's Saturday, March 18th,
March 18th,
3 to 6. And in the meanwhile, the show is up. I'm just going to put the labels and maybe add a few more photographs. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 5 p.m., 5 p.m. So that's open to the public. And of course, you can call 537-2777. And, you can Google, you can, LTV. The East End of Long Island, public access, and this is the Hello show. So really, in the 5 minutes that we have left, I thought to myself, how easy or difficult is it to lift yourself from where you sit and take that camera to venture for you? So. Because obviously I know that you will be the kind of person to think about these things.
Well, I always keep a camera in my car, I have a nice little digital Leica camera I bought off a friend of mine. She used one. It wasn't that expensive, and it's nice, and I always keep that in the car. But now with the phone, I have a really good phone. I had a really terrible phone for years, and I had to get a new one recently, and so I got a really good phone. And it shoots RAW files, which is really great in terms of photography. So you always have your camera on you when you have your phone. So at least, at the very least, you can photograph something and then come back to it maybe at a different time, a different lighting. So you always want to kind of be prepared, to have some kind of, for me, to have some kind of photographic device with me, when everybody walks past or drives past or looks at something and goes, that's really nice, and then they go past it and they said, I should have thought about that or made a sketch or write myself a note for that particular instant in time. And that's what photography is, it's that little instant in time, little Kodak minute,
So it's like your savings, it's a box of savings. You open it next time, then you can have 2 hours of being at ease with yourself and being able to create unconditionally without any question, isn't it? That's what I used to. This kind of attitude I had when I was playing drums more than I play today, is when I remember when I can play jazz, the real book, whatever, and then if I end up playing with kind of people who don't or know me or maybe don't know me or they never played with me. Or just a few times, and then I would say, okay, let's do giant steps, for example. I can play giant steps, but I won't be able to play giant steps if someone is trying to derail me, and go like really fast.
Yeah.
But I can play freestyle twice as fast as they can, giant steps, you know what I mean? So I do have encounters. I did have in the past where I say, have pity on me. So we started and go, da, 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 da. So I said, guys, and I see that they're like saying, okay, they're out for the kill. Well, so then I start playing freestyle and they realize, what's this powerful thing happening now here? How do we answer this? Then they start behaving, they slow down. And then when they just concern and do it again, then I go and play freestyle completely. I open up, and they don't understand what territory they're in.
Well, I've seen so many videos. Those early videos you used to do with your friend, that keyboard player. That guy was so great. He was an Israeli guy.
Avi Adrian, yeah.
Yeah, he was really great.
Yes.
You know, what a great keyboard player.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I remember those videos.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys, in the studio. Every once in a while, I'd have a third guy.
Yeah, Bob. He
Yeah.
passed away. God bless his soul. Oh my God.
Oh yeah, I remember those videos.
Yeah,
because,
yeah, yeah.
You guys were going
Endless
crazy.
amount, hundreds of hours. It was,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're here this early afternoon, March 9th, year 2023. Here with the Hello Hello Show. My name is Haim Mizrahi, and thank you to my friend and my guest Gerry Giliberti, and he's a part of the group art show here that we have, photography show, and so much more. And listen, thank you. I
thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for
Coming in,
asking
let's
me.
chat. You see, it wasn't so torturous.
Well, I'll be here. Definitely be here for the opening.
Yes.
And it sounds like it's going to be a great party after that.
Yeah,
so.
anyway, so that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's all
all those
all in the
bands,
day's
I can't
work.
wait.
Yeah. Keep up the good spirits.
Okay.
Thank you again, Jerry.